So, hi, my name is Esteban Sanchez, and I'll be talking about cars. So, more specifically, self-driving cars. So, the claim of fact that I'll be making today is that self-driving cars will have a negative impact on society. So, technology is advancing at a faster rate than ever before. We have smartphones, smart watches, smart TVs, and now we have smart cars. And by smart cars, I don't mean the little cars you guys see driving around, but I mean the cars that are legitimately smart with computers that are more advanced and more complex that we can ever understand. So Google in the past years has done a lot of research and development towards creating one of the smartest cars out there. They started a Google self-driving car project. So they have been doing testing since 2009 with the Toyota Prius. And according to their website, it states that we've driven over 1 million miles and are currently out on the streets of Mountain View, California and Austin, Texas. So this dedication towards such a cause is making a big impact on the whole automotive industry. It's really sparked a movement and has really inspired other car companies to develop their own self-driving cars. So some of the major companies include Ford, Tesla, General Motors, and Audi, which also are currently in the process of creating their own self-driving cars. Now, there is no doubt that this self-driving car technology is going to become a norm in the future. So, although this technology seems pretty incredible, the consequences that come with it are really something that just cannot be ignored. So, today I'll be making 3 points. That self-driving cars are going to be extremely expensive, self-driving cars will bring about unanticipated issues, and self-driving cars will contribute to a more technology-dependent society. So to start off, self-driving cars are going to be extremely expensive, not only to make, but to own. According to the Obama administration, they have unveiled a plan to invest $4 billion on development of self-driving cars. Now this is a huge sum of money. This sum of money can be put towards something a little more with a better purpose, so like education or crime prevention. Self-driving cars are going to be based on an electric powered platform, which is not cheap. One of the leading electric car companies, Tesla, is in development of their own self-driving car, and according to their website, one of their base models, called the Model S, will cost around $70,000. Now, since this car is already expensive, by adding a self-driving car or self-driving technology, it will increase the price dramatically, bringing the Model S out of reach for most people who actually need it, like old people and people with disabilities. Also, self-driving cars bring about unanticipated issues, which brings me to my second point. Now, not only will these cars be very expensive, they will have complex computers which will require additional education to properly use them and maintain them. Since the target buyers are going to be elderly people who are too old to drive and even people with disabilities, it's going to be harder for them to operate these types of vehicles. According to a study done by the University of Michigan's Transportation Research Institute, they found that Google's self-driving cars were involved in 5 times more accidents than a regular human-driven car. In these accidents, the self-driven car was not at fault in any of these accidents, but it is due to the driving style that caused these accidents. According to Google, their cars will have a non-aggressive driving style, which can frustrate drivers, which we all know that most drivers have an aggressive tendency to drive. So self-driving cars can cause a huge negative impact on the economy as well. According to an article by the University of Texas in Austin, they write that the company Google plans to offer the cars as an on-demand service rather than selling them directly to the consumer. So it pretty much is saying that Google is planning to make cars that are going to be much like Uber drivers or taxis, which can result in the loss of many jobs for taxi drivers, and buses will become a thing of the past. And not only that, the oil industry will be taking a huge hit as well due to the fact that car companies are planning to making these cars electric powered and not gas powered. Lastly, self-driving cars will contribute to a society where we will be more dependent on technology rather than our own intuition. Today we rely on our phones for pretty much anything. Books are now read online, navigation systems are now found on our phone, and we even have a little flashlight on our phone. Now cars that can drive themselves will be the next step to a more technology-dependent society. No one will want to drive anymore and be completely dependent on their self-driving car. People will begin to lose their sense of People will begin to lose their sense of direction because they will only be using their navigation systems to get around. In the end, this can lead to a world ruled by technology with little to no humanity. In conclusion, overall, the technology presented by companies like Google and Tesla will be incredible and will bring some good to our society. But as a result, the consequences of this technology just cannot be good. Thank you.
All right, Esteban, the propositions clearly identified. I think you've got this whole background information that ought to come up first before you identify the topic, so that, because that's basically what it does, because the way you presented initially seems a little dry and dull. And then when you start talking about what these cars are and what Google is doing and all those sorts of things, that to me seems like that's the attention device in the opening of the speech. So I would start with that. Then there's a very clear statement of what your proposition is, and you had a good preview of what the secondary points are. That's good. The signpost on the first point in the body of the speech was very clear. The second point was not very clear, wasn't really distinctive from the first point, although I could pick out some of the things that you're talking about. The third point was clearly signposted in the body of the speech. The proof on the individual points is sometimes pretty solid. I think you've got some information about some of the problems that are faced in that second issue concerning the driving styles of the cars, concerning issues that are faced by people who are disabled or elderly not being able to afford it. Although I think that you then turn around and suggest that that's not going to be an issue, because the model that they're looking at is that it's going to be similar to Uber, that they would be using it as like a taxi service instead, so they don't need to be able to afford it. That's not, and they won't even need to be able to have to learn it, because it'll just be one of those things that functions that way. So I think that undermines your point a little bit. So the points are a little contradictory there, and I'm not exactly sure that we have to worry about those issues. I thought the other issues probably would be a little bit more prominent. Well, on the third point on technology, I think you've got a good argument here, but your proof is really thin. It's all hypotheticals and comparisons to other things. You've got this claim that we're going to lose our sense of direction. Why? Are we going to stop being able to see where the sun is because we're in self-driving cars? I don't know. We won't notice landmarks. I don't know why that would be the case. Just as an example, if I'm in the car and I'm driving, I always have to watch the road. But if I'm in the car and I'm the passenger, I'm looking at every place that's around. I'm looking at all the streets that I'm driving by. I'm looking at the mountains that are around. I'm looking at the other traffic there. It might enhance my sense of direction. It might make me a lousy driver, but I don't need to drive anymore technology-wise, but I'll have a better sense of where I am because I'm not driving. And that's just a hypothetical, but that's what you've got is a hypothetical. So is there any reason to believe that this is true? For example, have people become dependent on some technologies and now they can't add, subtract, multiply, and divide because they all use calculators and that kind of thing. Or they don't remember phone numbers because their phones just automatically remember those phone numbers, and we now have shorter attention spans as a consequence. Or that we don't read very well. If you could maybe cite some examples, parallel examples, that would be a little bit easier to accept. I thought you did, like I said, a pretty good job on some things. I think you needed more information. To me, I think one of the things that's missing is some expert testimony and some statistical information. The only thing that comes close to being statistical information is the factual data about the number of accidents that they've had and about how much money the government is spending on these kinds of things. Otherwise, I think, like I said, the examples I thought were pretty good. The factual data that you had was solid. We just need to be able to generalize a little bit more. Okay, thank you.